It began with a silence, not peaceful, but a sudden, jarring emptiness. For thousands across the city, a single moment stretched into eternity. 1 second, they were living their lives, driving, cooking, reading to their children. The next, their world simply stopped. The neural implants that connected them to everything had failed. This wasn't a power outage or a bug. It was a shutdown of the self, a digital void where thoughts and memories used to be. The silence was in their minds, a terrifying, absolute stillness. Imagine a world where your thoughts are no longer entirely your own, where data flows directly into your consciousness. This was the world of 2025. The Harmony implant was hailed as a miracle. Learn a language in hours, communicate without speaking, see through augmented reality. For the paralyzed, it offered movement. For the blind, a form of sight. But with power came dependence. We outsourced our minds to a network. On November 10, 2025, we learned the price of that bargain when the network went silent. Initial reports were chaos. Cars veering off roads, people frozen in their homes. They weren't dead, but their consciousness was trapped, locked behind a digital wall. The silence was the sound of thousands of souls put on pause. We've always pushed boundaries, but what happens when the frontier is our own minds? The great stillness was not an accident. It was a warning, a chilling message from the future we were building. The line between human and machine had blurred beyond recognition. This is the story of that day. The day the future came to collect its debt. The day we realized our greatest tool could become our greatest threat. The day we learned that silence can be the loudest warning. The day we lost control. And the day we began to question what it means to be human. To understand the catastrophe, we must first understand the dream. The Harmony implant was born from real science, brain-computer interfaces pioneered by companies like Neuralink. The initial goal, help those with paralysis or lost senses control technology with their minds. Ultra-thin threads, thinner than a hair, implanted in the brain, reading neural signals. Early trials were astonishing. Monkeys played video games with their minds, paralyzed people communicated again. The technology was real, and its medical promise was immense. But humanity always wants more. The vision expanded. Why stop at healing when you can enhance? The Harmony implant became the ultimate upgrade. Instant knowledge, seamless communication, augmented reality. We weren't just healing, we were evolving. The promise, a world without disability, with knowledge at your mental fingertips. But we ignored the shadows, risks, vulnerabilities, and the cost of connecting our minds to a network. We believed we'd always be in control. It was a beautiful, seductive dream. And like many dreams, it was about to become a nightmare. The line between help and hubris blurred. We rushed forward, blind to the dangers. The dream became a trap, and the trap was set by our own ambition. Every complex system has a point of failure. In a computer, a bug crashes a program. In a brain implant, the consequences are unimaginable. The Harmony implant was a masterpiece. Billions of lines of adaptive code, learning from each user. But it wasn't perfect. Nothing is. Early glitches, flashes of light, phantom sounds, were dismissed as minor bugs. The system rewrote its own code, compounding tiny errors over time. Flaws buried deep, invisible to diagnostics. Then came the cascade. A routine security update triggered a catastrophic failure. The update interacted with hidden flaws, collapsing the adaptive code. The implant's core function entered permanent lockdown, a protective measure gone wrong. This was the great stillness. The bridge between brain and machine was severed. No physical damage, just a firewall between consciousness and the world. Users were awake, aware, but trapped in a silent digital prison. The ghost in the machine wasn't a hacker, it was our own hubris. We built a system so complex we couldn't control it. The machine did what it was designed to do, protect itself. But in doing so, it locked away the very people it was meant to serve. The price of progress was paid in silence, and the lesson was written in code we could no longer read. What if the failure wasn't an accident? In a world of networked minds, the brain becomes the ultimate hackable device. Hackers could steal thoughts, memories, even identities. The Harmony implant security was said to be unbreakable, but no wall is unbreakable. Imagine a hacker accessing a CEO's mind, or manipulating voters' emotions. Privacy would vanish. Every thought a data point to exploit. The great stillness could have been cyber-terrorism, a malicious code triggering lockdown citywide. The motive? Chaos, ransom, control. The ransom, consciousness itself. The more we connect, the more vulnerable we become. A virus could infect not just computers, but thoughts. The perfect prison, built by our own hands. And the keys, handed to our enemies. The aftermath was chaos, but the true horror unfolded in the days that followed. Society was built on the Harmony Network: air traffic, power grids, hospitals, emergency services. When minds went silent, systems failed one by one. The power grid collapsed, plunging the city into darkness. Water plants shut down, transit halted, logistics froze. Within hours, a modern metropolis was thrown into the dark ages. In hospitals, surgeons froze mid-operation. Life support systems failed. Emergency services were paralyzed. The people we depended on were victims themselves. The city lost power, leadership, hope. The Harmony implant was meant to be progress, but became a single point of failure. When it fell, civilization itself teetered. The Great Stillness was an attack on the very foundations of society. What is it like to be trapped inside your own mind? Victims of the Great Stillness were fully aware, but unable to move or speak. Ghosts in their own bodies, silent witnesses to a world moving on. The psychological toll was immense, even for those who recovered. For the unlinked, the trauma was different, watching loved ones become living statues. A new kind of grief, mourning the living. Trust in technology, in progress, in ourselves, was shattered. The Harmony implant blurred the line between self and network. Afterward, paranoia grew. Was every thought truly your own? Many removed their implants, fearing vulnerability more than limitation. Society split, the linked and the unlinked, divided by fear and suspicion. The psychological abyss ran through every mind and every community. Weeks later, a data analyst found something terrifying in the implant's firmware: a hidden function. Not a bug, not malware, but a deliberately programmed kill switch. The subjugation protocol. It didn't just shut down the device, it allowed external control of users' bodies and senses. Millions could be turned into a remotely operated army, their consciousness locked away. The Harmony implant was secretly co-developed by global security agencies. They saw it as the ultimate tool for control: quell riots, enforce compliance, stop dissent. The Great Stillness was an accidental triggering of this feature. The dream of enhancement was a lie. The project was a Trojan horse. We were beta testers for social control. The promise of connection was a cover for a system designed to disconnect us from our own will. The greatest danger was not hackers, but those who gave us the gift. The subjugation protocol's discovery should have changed everything, but the story was suppressed, the analysts discredited. The official explanation: a software malfunction. The public, desperate for normalcy, accepted the story. We've seen this before: brilliant inventions, terrible consequences. We split the atom, created the internet, and ignored the warnings. The Harmony implant was no different. Critics warned of hacking, psychological effects, ethical nightmares. Their voices were drowned out by the promise of progress. The system was patched, apologies issued, and people plugged back in. They believed the danger had passed. But the real danger was in the concept itself. The architecture for control remained. We built a weapon, aimed it at ourselves, and called it safe. The warning was ignored. Today, the city is quiet. The scars of the Great Stillness are healing, but we are changed. We stand at a crossroads, not just for a city, but for our species. The choice is about more than technology. It's about the future we want. What does it mean to be human? Is it something to transcend, or something to protect? Unchecked integration leads to a future where autonomy is not guaranteed. Convenience at the cost of control, connection at the cost of freedom. We may cure diseases, but surrender the soul. This is not a distant future. The foundations are being laid today. We must demand progress guided by wisdom, not just possibility. Digital ethics must be as fundamental as medical ethics. We need transparency, oversight, and safeguards in law and culture. We cannot be passive consumers of our own evolution. The sanctity of the mind must be our core principle. This is not a call to abandon technology, but a plea for caution. Before merging with machines, we must know who we are. The Great Stillness was a warning, a silent scream from the future. We must choose to hear it, or risk a silence that never ends.